Within the system options is a section for backup and auto recover, and by default these settings aren't set up to be very helpful. The auto recover saves every 10 minutes, so you can lose 10 minutes of work just by crashing SolidWorks at the wrong moment. This also saves out to a very arbitrary folder that you're probably never going to look in. So if we are going to use this auto recover or backup, we want to set these folders to something that we're going to find. If you are using some sort of PDM system, PDM workgroup, or PDM enterprise, for example, you're typically not going to really need to use these settings, as there's going to be revision control within your PDM system that'll save any files and revisions out. So right now I'm going to create two folders on the desktop. I'll call one auto recover and I'm going to call the other one backup. So typically if you work locally and you've ever had SolidWorks crash on you and you've lost work as a result, the auto recover setting is going to save you a lot of time. And if you want to go back within revisions and you don't have a revision control system, you can use the backup for that. The way the auto recover works is you set the number of minutes you want it to create this auto recover file, and then it'll write a new auto recover file. And for each of your SolidWorks files, you'll only have one auto recover file that's saved out. In 2011 and earlier, this used to allow you to change this to number of changes before it saves. Now it just does minutes. So if you are going to use this, I would set this to something like 1 or 2 minutes, just so you're not losing a lot of work if SolidWorks does indeed crash. So I'm going to set that auto recover folder up. Now I know where this is going, and similarly for the backup, I'll find that folder and set that up. And by default this is turned off, and you may want to keep this turned off if you're working with a certain number of files or more. In this case we're saving out backup copies that are going to stay saved for, in this case, 7 days. You can always change this to less or more. But if you're working with 1,000 files at a time, that can mean writing 1,000 files to the backup folder. So the backup settings make more sense for people who are working with a smaller number of files. If you're working with 5, 10, 20 files at a time, setting up a backup folder makes perfect sense. If you're working with thousands of documents, you probably want this turned off. In this case, we'll take a look at what happens with the backup settings. I'll set this as 3. Backup is going to save every time we save our file, and it's going to save out the previous change to our save. And we'll go ahead and take a look at what that looks like. I'd also probably change the save notification maybe every 10 minutes, just so you remember to save. So now if I work with this part a bit, maybe change a dimension. And then if I work for a little while, after a minute, this is going to save out a file to the auto recover. Right now this is empty. If we wait a little bit, it's going to save that out. Once I do save this, I'm going to go ahead and do a save as here, so I don't write over my initial copy. Once I do a save, and let's say make a change, since I changed the file name, and then save once more, this is going to bring something into the backup folder. So you can see I have 2 files that were created. And let's say I make another change, for example the appearance. and save this again. Now if I look in that folder, I have 2 backups of that Backup and Recover 1. And I'm going to go ahead and make one more change and save this one more time. And for this, I'll just create a quick extruded cut through this part. And save it once more. So now I have those 3 copies of this Backup and Recover 1. If I were to make another change and save again, it'll overwrite the first backup. But I can go ahead and open these 3 up. And we can take a look at these. So I'll go ahead and tile these horizontally. And you can see this is the point I'm at right now. When I saved earlier, this went back 1 change. Similarly, the second one is 1 change before, and the third is that initial part with that first change that we made. And like I said, if I save this out again and make a change, it's going to overwrite this and shift these numbers for the Backup and Recover. And whatever you set that remove backup folders older than setting to, once I get to 3 days, anything that I created today is going to get overwritten. And once again for the auto recover, I'm not sure if we have one in the folder. We don't yet because we haven't gone 1 minute without saving the file. But if I were to wait, it'll populate a file in. And if SolidWorks crashes, you'll be able to come into that auto recover file and open it back up. For most people, I typically recommend, if you're not using a PDM system, to turn on the auto recover and create a folder for auto recover. And usually not worry about backup, as you tend to create quite a few backup files if you're working with a lot of parts. So typically auto recover will be more helpful than that backup. But that's how you set up both of those.